Our effort has directed 7,000 young people and members of the coastal community across Nigeria. Fostering a
So, hello guys.
We can't hear you yet today.
Okay, I think we've lost her, and I'll continue from where she stopped. So, for our facilitator, Esther Babatunde, so she currently serves as the senior programs manager at Lekan Bakare Foundation. In this leadership role, she directs the design and implementation of climate and coastal resilience initiative specifically aligned with SDG 14, which is life below water. Our efforts have directly impacted over 7,000 young people and members of the coastal communities across Nigeria, fostering a deeper understanding of marine conservation and environmental protection. In addition to her national leadership, Esther is the regional coordinator for Africa on the UNESCO Youth Climate Action Network. In this capacity, she drives youth led climate engagement and facilitates essential cross continental collaboration, empowering young Africans to participate in global environmental discourse by bridging the gap between high level climate policy and implementation focused sustainability solutions. Esther remains a pivotal figure in the movement to secure a resilient future. Her commitment to empowering the next generation ensures that climate action remains a central pillar of African development. So let's please give a reaction by giving a thumbs up to our facilitators so that we know that you are engaging. Thank you very much. So, for our learning objective, we believe that at the end of the session, you'll be able to identify climate vulnerabilities across the different parts of Nigeria, and you'll be able to understand the policy process around Nigerians' climate actions plans. Okay. So, I'll be inviting Babatunde, Esther to take us through this session. Yetunde, are you here now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, please continue.
Yeah. Please, we'd like to invite our facilitator for today, Esther Babatunde. Please, are you on call?
Yeah, hello everyone.
Good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for the warm welcome. It's good to be here this morning, and I hope we are having a good weekend and that we had a good week as well. Thank you for having me facilitate this session. As I have been rightly introduced, my name is Esther Babatunde, and my work is across the climate action, youth development, sustainability, and policy engagement. So today, I'll be leading you to discuss a very, very important session, and it's on the global and national climate policy framework. And we know that these things are very, very important in the way countries, such as Nigeria, respond to climate change. So I would go ahead to share my screen now. We're about 30 minutes late. I want to believe that I can still, use my 1 hour, 30 minutes that I initially have for the session. Can I have the permission to share my screen?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, have you been able to share your screen?
Just a minute, please. Okay, can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So let me check the numbers. Okay, we have about 30 persons. How many people are we expecting on the call? What's the expected number? I mean, from the email I received, I think 100.
Yes, ma, you are right, ma.
Okay, so if you're on the call and your friend, your colleague is supposed to be here, but they are not yet around, it would be nice to nudge them and send a reminder via calls or chats or WhatsApp messages so that they can join in and benefit from this conversation and session that we're going to be having for the next 1 hour, 30 minutes or thereabouts. So as I've earlier said, taking this topic for this, and again, I would also like to thank the Nigerian Youth SDG Network for coming up with this boot camp. I know that Joshua have been very, very, committed to empowering young people when it comes to SDGs, the climate, and all of that. So thank you. Kudos to the team for putting this up, and well done to Evangeline. She has been the contact person who has been, reaching out to me and all. So, okay, going to my next slide now. So the objectives of this session is that you are able to understand how climate governance works from the global level to the national level. Even when we go for these COP events and all of that, we still need to scale down action, from local to global and all of that. I mean, that is how we are able to make sure that all of these things are actually being implemented. And so, just a minute.
Is that there's this guy that has this beard, whether his name is Ucho.
Okay, can we please mute our mics? We're having some um chit chats in the background. Okay, so at the end of this session, it is, expected that you understand the major international climate agreements, their purposes, from the UNFCCC to the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement, and coming down to Nigeria, climate policy system, identify gaps between policy and implementation, although we're not yet to, cast stone or to judge, but here to also make sure that you understand what really works, what has been done, and what needs to be done to ensure that we reach the goal, for the climate change standards that has been set, from the UNFCCC, from the United Nations level, and then we'll go into Nigerians' climate response, and then most importantly, the role of youths, of young people in climate governance, which also speaks to why we are having this boot camp as well. If you're with me, can I say thumbs up? I think I can't see the participants, but let me check. Okay, I see your reactions. All right, thank you. Okay, just a moment. Can you still see my screen?
No, we can't.
You can't. Okay. I feel that. So let me reshare.
I fly like a bird, oh. I am just person.
Okay, how about now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's warm up. Let's have an icebreaker. I mean, we can see climate change, breaking the icebergs as it has been, all of the effects and the visible things that we can. So let's make it quite conversational. So let's put in the charts to make it more coordinated. What are those climate change impacts that you have personally noticed in your community over the past years? I would be looking through the chart. Let's just have this within the next 3 to 5 minutes so that I will know that I'm in the right room and I have the right audience. Where's my chat? That's the first question we'll be taking. So I will give you guys some minutes to ruminate and, leave that in the chat. Okay, I see extreme heat waves. Okay, let's have more. We're about 30 plus on the call. Erratic rainfall, so relatable. It's really been raining non-stop. I was in Ikeja yesterday, and one woman was saying, "Oh, they're just experiencing rain." I'm like, on the island, it's been raining since last month, and back to back non-stop, flooding. I mean, I had to wear rain boots while stepping out of the house yesterday. So you are right, crop failure. Okay, that's in regards to food security. Do we have more? Let's have more. I believe we have regional representation on the call. So it would be nice to also have some perspectives from, the geopolitical regions. So let's know if what we are experiencing is a unified one. Flood. Okay, Adam Yusuf. Um, I want to believe, okay, let me not assume if he's from the north, but I can judge from the names. Extreme heat and heavy rainfall. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of common responses here. Rainfall, no Amazon. We're still in should I say winter now? We're not yet in the Harmattan period. Although last year we didn't really have Harmattan. Back in those days when you have to use lip gloss or rub and all of those that to make sure that your lips are moisturized. I mean, I agree that we've not really been experiencing Harmattan, which shows that we are having more warming seasons, you know. Okay, so thank you for those responses. Let's go to the next one. So coming down to, okay, why do I have the next slide now? So in the Nigerian context, how would you like to describe the climate change and resilience efforts so far? Coming down nationally, what do you think? How has it been like for us in Nigeria with regards to climate change and resilience efforts? So we're now on the second bullet point, icebreaker. So I would like to also have feedback on that. I mean, let's make it respectful. I know that we might want to show our grievances, which is fine, but then it would be nice to also know what we think, because that's part of what we'll be discussing when we get to the interactive session. So what do you think? What's your perception when you look at climate change, coastal resilience, or climate resilience, and you think about Nigeria? What comes to your mind? Okay, I can't see any response in the chat regarding that. Okay, Chirindu, okay, that's question one. Okay, good. I think in the past years there has been some level of awareness, but the main work, which is implementing policies, is very low. Correct. I agree with you. I agree with you. That is why we're having this session, to bridge the gap, so that when you also go out there, you are more equipped. As I will, okay, with all of this that is happening now, I still wonder why the cutting down of trees uh, are still on the increase. Okay, that's a good take. Instability. How do you mean instability, Pelumi? Instability on what parts? Is it that from the angle of the government, or the other stakeholders that are involved, or lack of continuity? I also think that people are struggling so much in the country to implement these policies that they are aware of? People are strongly, is this in the context of the citizens or the government? Remember that the government are the ones that will implement these things. Well, the citizens also have their take, but I mean, these things have to come up from the top before it is being absorbed by the masses. Okay, so let's have one more take. Thank you guys for this very good points that you have put out. It shows that I'm in the right room and I have the smartest audience. So should I take one more before we dive straight into the conversation? One more, who wants to speak? Can we have more female representation? Pelumi is a female. I'm not sure if IB sounds like a male name. Okay, Kefas. For me, I like to say Nigeria is not putting my efforts in case climate change. Okay, I didn't get that part, but I believe this is climate change, like creating awareness and now, okay, it affects deforestation. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I love that the class is participatory and the energy is up. So let's now zoom into the global level. So the global climate change agreement. So when we look at climate change on a global level, what comes to mind is going to be like the United Nations, the UNFCCC COPs, a lot of treaties and all of that. But to really understand how the countries respond to climate change, right, we first need to understand what these global agreements are really are. So when we say climate change, in the global challenge context, this is when countries come together, and we know that Nigeria is also part of the treaties, country that are, they signed these agreements when it comes to UN, and they are part of the member nations. So these are international. When you talk about the global climate agreements, they are international agreements under the United Nations. That's the coordinating bodies, that assist to the country's response, where all the member countries come together collectively, right? So it's the collective vote. That is why we have it as the United Nations. They discuss shared goals, commitments, and most importantly, ensure that there's accountability and then there's cooperation regarding this climate change. So why do we need to have, all of these climate agreements? And don't forget that climate change is part of the SDGs, right? That is goal 13, climate action. So we have an handful of other SDGs, but we are focusing on narrowing what we're talking about in this context, to climate. So why should we have this agreement? Is because we need to take global actions, and then there has to be a coordinating body so that it's not done in an haphazard way. And we have to set common goals because, all right, we say that we are all being impacted by climate change, but in different ways. We have different lived experiences. What works in the global north is different from what works, in the global south. So when everybody comes together to share their experiences, regarding adaptation, emission reduction, it gives more context to the conversation, and then it also ensures that the countries are able to take responsibilities, based on their capacity and the context of what they observed over time is the challenge in their own country, right? And it's also to strengthen global cooperation, since climate change is a global issue, as we all know, and it's one of the triple planetary crises that we are currently experiencing globally, with biodiversity loss, waste management, and all of that. So building on this idea, right, we now have a key structure to make sure that it is unified, it is structured, and things are really done properly. So we have three major pillars. That's the UNFCCC, and that stands for. Can anyone drop in the chat what the UNFCCC is? Let me see if you guys have that understanding of what UNFCCC is. So let me check the chats. What's the full meaning of the acronym UNFCCC? Anyone? In the next few seconds. I hope you guys are not using Google to check. Does anyone want to try? Can you guys still hear me? Am I still audible? Because the room is a bit silent. Okay, so what's the full meaning of UNFCCC? Hmm? Climate activists in the room. Okay, so that's United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. UNFCCC are the ones that, the COPs, the Conference of Parties, are built on. So that is the first and the foundation of the global climate negotiation. So just get this as well, because when it comes to policy is really long, and I've really tried to ensure that. When I really tried, I actually made sure that my slides, has more pictorial representation, and it's going to do justice to it, not to make it so boring. Although there are some resources that are also attached that you can look at after the call. I'm going to be sharing my slides anyway, but I mean, beyond having the slides, it's also important that you pay attention and listen. So, and then secondly, we have the Kyoto Protocol. So this one speaks to. Okay, my slide is covered. Emissions reduction. Okay, why is my slide moving now? Emissions reduction, and it is the first legally binding emission reduction system that we have. And then we have the Paris Agreement, the one most of you are quite familiar with, the Paris Agreement. Okay, so do you understand this? Because this is what is going to feed into what we're going to be discussing as we progress in this session. So the key frame structure that we have for global climate agreements, where the national ones are built on, are classified into three: the UNFCCC, the Kyoto Protocol, and the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement is the current global framework that all national bodies work on to ensure that we do not go below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Are we good? Can I proceed? Can I have some reactions? Or you can leave a message in the chat
Nigeria.
as well. The chat has gone quiet. I want to probably my network. Okay, you united. Oh, good, 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 good. Someone said we can barely hear you. Is my voice that low? My speaker is on the loudest here. Is that what everyone is experiencing?
No,
So
I don't
triple
think so.
planetary means
Oh
that the
my
global
God.
Okay, okay, no worries, because I see someone. Okay, I see Chideze saying we can barely hear you, so I wanted to be sure. So we have biodiversity laws, we have climate change, and a whole of others, but we have to make sure that they are classified as the core ones, not to say the other ones are not important. So that is what's briefly what the triple planetary crisis. I mean, so let's go into UNF. So we'll take all of these things one after the other and build on them. So let's start with the foundation of everything, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. That's the main treaty. It coordinates everything, all international efforts to address, climate change. And it was established in 1992 at the Rio Earth Summit, Rio in Brazil, so that everybody, as I have said earlier, all nations of the world comes together since this is what affects everybody, both from the global north to the seas, that's the small islands, developing states, to the global south, everybody, it's a general issue. And why do we have this? So the main goal of this of the UNFCCC what's it called now? This document is to ensure that the greenhouse concentrations in the atmosphere, they're at a level that prevents dangerous human interference, you understand, with the climate system. We all know that if you look at the causes of climate change, I didn't want to start with that because I believe that there's a session to you understanding what climate change is. Most of these things are caused by anthropogenic causes, that is human-induced effects, right? So, although we have the natural ones that are not controllable, like the volcanic eruptions and all of that, the earth naturally reheats itself. Over time, these are natural processes, but we as humans have made sure these things work so fast in a way that is now becoming, an an adverse effect to the people and to the planet. So again, it was adopted in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, that's in Brazil, and it brings all the countries together. So it's international effort to combat climate change. So the objectives of the UNFCCC is to make sure that the countries work together to reduce greenhouse gases emissions and also to support climate adaptation and resilience efforts over time. And it's also built a specific framework for other agreements to work on. So it's like the foundation of the whole work. So the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement, all of them are based off the UNFCCC. So there is a guiding principle behind this UNFCCC. It's called common but differentiated responsibilities. We have this common, popular way we say, let's solve climate problem, let's solve African problem the African way. So these are, why this is a global issue, right? It shows that each countries have specific ways by which they are experiencing this, right? What is obtainable in Nigeria is not what is obtainable even in South Africa or in Cote d'Ivoire or in Morocco or Egypt, and talk about the US and, all other European and global north countries. So each countries, they are responsible for addressing climate change. So by the time you bring this down to the national level, then when they meet for UN or other diplomacy meetings, they come together and discuss, what efforts have been done to ensure that we bring down these emissions, and also to make sure that, most importantly, countries take responsibility. So you cannot blame the United Nations for, maybe you have climate change in your country or things are not working. It is left to you to go down, like to go inwardly in your own country to make sure that you know what is working, the challenges you have, the issues you are facing, how is climate change impacting you. Why are we here talking about plastic pollution? We can talk about Finland and other Danish countries talking about maybe ethics around innovation. And that's something entirely, let me not even go into that, but just to let us understand that we have what is obtainable in different countries, and we need to make sure that we treat climate change, as that as well, although in an holistic way, but in what is obtainable in each country. So we have a little note here that says UNFCCC remains the foundation of global climate negotiations, and it hosts the annual conference of parties meeting. So someone was, speaking to me about COP. She's not in the climate space. Everybody should even be in the climate, because climate is interdisciplinary. Whether you are in actuarial science or you are in diplomacy or you are arts, in a way, climate has found a way to connect everybody together. We now have the creative economy also playing a role in terms of photography and visual effects, right? So she was like, oh, she was taking COP with something that has to do with the police. Out there in the country, they refer to COP as the police. Here we say the police and they say COP there. So you're like, is this about the police or, COP? I'm like, no, that's conference of parties. It's one of the languages that we use in this space. So, and she was like, oh, is this, when we say COP 30, what does it mean? Does it mean 30 policemen? I said, no, that is like the 30th year that the conference of party is being hosted. So this year is COP 31. That's the 31st, gathering, and it's going to happen in Antalya in Turkey. So do we have a very good understanding of the UNFCCC now? Okay, so let us go further. And then we'll be talking about the Kyoto Protocol. So this is the second one. And then building on the foundation of the UNFCCC, the next step in global climate governance was this particular protocol. And I had to use this to show you that it is the first legally binding one. When we say, imagine that year in 1997, this was COP3, so it means that COP3 took place in Japan, right? And Kyoto is one of the major cities in Japan. So that was when they adapted this, and they used the gravel seal. We didn't have so much technology then to use all of those signatory stuff. So when you go to the court of law and the judges say, they say the highest have it, so it shows that it is the legal one. Not to say that the UNFCCC does not have some form of legal effect, but when you say you guys signed, like this is now very, very legal. For those of you in the legal space, when you say something is legally binding, it makes it more super authentic, and it shows that you guys have to take action, to make sure that this thing is being resolved. So that was adopted in 1997, and it entered into force in 2005. So over the years, there were meetings, there were agreements, there are adjustments, when we have member nations talk about what is being done in their countries or the status of climate and all of that. So, but it is focused majorly on emission reduction by developed countries. Don't forget that we used to have this narrative and say, oh, Africa is not having so we're not polluting, right? We have more developed countries polluting, which is not to say that is not right, because they are the ones that have the heavy built industries and all of that, because they are very much advanced and developed. But we also, when people now started saying, oh, let's stop acting as victims here, let's also take responsibilities, So it's basically focused on reducing green, because as at that time, we had increments in CO2, the greenhouse gases, the methane, carbon monoxide, it was really, really high. And when we talk about climate change, we are not just speaking about carbon dioxide. We have a lot of emitters. It's both in the agricultural sector, even in manufacturing. Well, that was how we moved from, these bulbs, for those of you that are still in that space. If I say millennial now, the Gen Zs might start coming from me. But those yellow bulbs that we use, how many of you know those yellow bulbs? Let me see how many ancestors I have in the chat here. Can you give me a thumbs up if you know the yellow bulbs that we used those time? Okay, let me check my chats if anyone can relate. You know those yellow bulbs that we used those times. So because of combating climate change is why we also have those. So we now have the white bulbs. So we have the white bulbs because those ones have less of lead. Yes, they make the room more heat. In fact, for people that Ibukulomet is feeling fly now, I'm sure she's one of those only days millennials. So if you look at people that are into poultry production, they use those yellow bulbs for brooding because it emits more heat. And this is to say that all of those heavy metals that are being used, to produce all these things that are adversely affecting the environment. So I just want you to also know that when we talk about emissions, it's not just carbon dioxide. We have lead. For those of you that are really in the heavy metals, chemistry, biochemistry, you relate to what I'm saying. So Kyoto Protocol, when they figured that what we are saying in UNFCCC convention thing did not capture reduction of emissions, we need to address this issue as well. So that was how this came into play. And then, so the key features that we have on that, so this protocol, I've attached a link that you can, look at those resources and learn more about them. It's a whole lot, but you really do not have, just understand the basics. And this session has been summarized because by the time you sit down and start reading all of these books and all of that, but beyond reading the academic part, although there's an academic or there is like a book background, for lack of better words, for what we do, but because for you to implement, you need to understand. So at your leisure time and as you grow more in the climate space, you get to understand all of these things better. It becomes clearer to you over time. So you don't have to choke yourself because we are talking about policy and think, oh, I need to start reading according to Annex 1, according to Act 2. No, just take it little by little. It will get clearer with time as we proceed in this. So the key principle for the Kyoto Protocol is these three things here. Principles are that three things: a clean development mechanism, right? So it's introduced this clean develop mechanism, and then emission trading when we now have the carbon credits trading. These ones are by countries, whereby let's say a country A is producing more emissions and country B has a way where they can trade it off, maybe emitting less or using electric vehicles. There's a way this thing works, but not even in this context because we are even still battling plastic pollution. So not to say we cannot adopt carbon credits. Some organizations are actually doing that, but when you talk about countries trading carbon credits, it was introduced by, and when we go for these issues, although not to sound a bit biased, but because these guys in the global north, a lot of this pollution comes from them. They are also taking more efforts to combat it. So they have a lot of plans, they have innovations, before we now start adopting them here in the global south. So in order to reduce these emissions, they looked at the way of trading this carbon, and then we have the joint implementations where developed countries will collaborate on emission reduction projects. Maybe within the African Union as well, these things have been are being done, but we have a lot of data from the global level, because a lot of times when you look at these archives from the African angle, either the link is broken or it's not taking you to that page. So it's quite difficult, or maybe they are not really being reported anyway. So take note that the Kyoto Protocol introduced market-based so that you can trade, right? It's also a form of making money where we have for people, for prosperity, and for the planet. So, however, we had some limitations regarding this thing, because we have some emitters like the US, they did not ratify. They didn't give it to it. And while I was doing my master's, there's this course in law, faculty of law, that was offered that speaks about polluter must pay principle, environmental law, environmental justice, whereby the people that are polluting more, they should actually pay more. They should bear the brunt, right? So part of limitations that we had then was like, some developing countries as well, they had no binding reduction targets. These are the issues. They had no binding things like, how is it going? What's going on in our country? How do we make sure that we truly limit this thing? How do we bring this back home beyond going for spring meetings, the international forums and all of those things? And so all of this limited participation is really reduced overall effectiveness when it came to this Kyoto Protocol. So these are resources that you can click on to read. It's a very long one, but again, because you have a very good background, you will be able to have a very good understanding of it. So the key takeaway from this is that the Kyoto Protocol marked the beginning of legally binding commitments, particularly for developed countries anyway, but let's say globally, because this is a global accountability, issue as well. And then we have the third one, which is the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement is more recent, over the years, over time, climate governance, it's evolved. Have we had the meetings, the conversation from the global to the national and all of that. So we needed something that is more inclusive, right? Something that is more comprehensive and something that is more relatable. So, but there is a key thing that I also want us to look at here. Can anyone point out something from this picture? Can you point out a major difference from the picture? Something that I think has evolved over the years.
Amma da na san ba zai fita ne, sorry. Tun daga can zan shiga in sha mai, tun da ina niyyar shan mai.
Okay, please can we mute our
Wallahi.
mic? Can anyone spot a major difference here? So if you look at the pictorial representation from the UNFCCC, let me go back in time. So if you look at this room here, when the whole climate conversation started, and then you bring it back to the Paris Agreement, which is more recent, right? What is something that you see that strikes in you? Okay, global warming, fair enough. Global warming is more discussed because we now said that we need to put the whole temperature below 2.0 degree Celsius. And we need to also pursue the efforts to make sure that if at all, it mustn't pass 1.5. So if the Earth warm, beyond that, it's going to be a disaster. But there's something else that I think we should look at. Okay, let me give a cue. So regarding to, let's say, inequality, youth, okay, yes, fair enough. We have more young people in the room. The men are the ones speaking. What's going on? Are the women? I hope you guys did not log in and then you are in the kitchen. I mean, not gender specific. Okay, I hope I'm not going to murder this name. Meshoshata. Okay, let me just say Igbo. I mean, I believe that's your father's name anyway. So, let me say MI. Yes, MI. MI is a female. Okay. What are the other females? Both male and female. I hope you guys did not just log in and then you are in the kitchen making some afang soup and all of that, and you are not participating in the session. Can I have thumbs up if, I mean, let me see reactions if you are here. Okay, IB is a female. IB sounds like short for Ibrahim to me. Okay, so what do you guys see? Reduce greenhouse gases. Okay, fair enough too. Please, can we put some thumbs up or some emojis for me to know that we're together? Okay, good, good. Okay, we have more female representation over the years. If you look at that of the UNFCCC, we had a lot of males in the room, like they were the one calling the shots. But over time, the Paris Agreement is the most recent one. Look at this woman here. We have more women now being involved. In those days too, we had women, but not as much as what we have now. So that was why I focused on this particular one that is showing you. So women are no longer like, we're not just having the feedback when they go for all this climate agreement. We are now part of the discussion. So I mean that's also a win for us. Okay, so moving down, we now have the Paris Agreement shifted climate action into a global shared responsibility, not to invalidate the UNFCCC or the Kyoto Protocol, but is now saying that it is the most recent one. Structure change over time, growth is inevitable. It happens. So when they were in Paris is in France, we're like, okay, what do we need to also do to update all of these things? So that was adopted in 2015 during COP21. So that is to say COP21 was hosted in Paris and it's entered into force in 2016. So after the whole, COP usually happens around November, December. So after the whole COP, everybody went together and then Ishaya, let's get it started. Let's blow it up. So, and it was signed by nearly every country in the world. So that's the current. So if I'm not taking anything at all from it, just know that the Paris Agreement is a current global framework that we are all working with and is guiding the international action. So it's a revised form of the UNFCCC, the Kyoto Protocol, and all of the ones that have taken place. So the main goal by the Paris Agreement is to say that the temperature needs to be below 2.0 degrees Celsius, which is below the pre-industrial levels, and we need to pursue efforts to make sure that it stays within 1.5 degrees Celsius. So imagine if it go below 1.5, then it's going to be a very much big disaster. And then we have more youth participation, just like as we said earlier in the chat. So we now have a lot of rallies, activism, because young people also having more lived experiences. We don't have any planet B, although Elon Musk is, building whatnot in the moon now. I mean, even if we go to the moon, are we going to carry our buildings, our life? And this is something that is even still in the works anyway. So we have no planet B. We have no. So before we even go to the moon, let's make Earth better. Let's make it more better. And this is also to say that innovation is really ongoing, and you all have to be on speed. Like you need to follow the world. As people went to NASA. About three, the Artemis group went to, via NASA, they went to the space. So that's to tell you that nothing is limitless. A lot of things are really ongoing, and it now puts a question in my mind as a sustainability professional that I hope will not start causing more harm. Like, we are still on Earth, right? Trying to fight CO2 emissions, transitioning from linear to circular economy, moving from petrol to electric vehicles and all of those things. Up emissions in the space, when it takes a lot of energy for rockets to take off and for those things to go far, 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 far into the space, right? Hope this is not going to cause another problem in the coming time to say, now that we're experiencing speed, because believe you me, there's going to be a time whereby people are just like you go to Dubai or you go to the UK and all of that, say, oh, I'm booking a flight and I'm traveling to space. It's going to get there. Yeah, people are investing. We have a lot of investors who are investing into space technology now. So that is also a food for thought. How I'm thinking out loud in my mind that hope we do not have, such issues going on. So, well, that is why we're having this boot camp so that you can understand what to do and how your role cuts into making climate making sure that, okay, let me go back to my current slide, making sure that this temperature do not go below 1.5 and are part of the global climate efforts. So, I mean, I've discussed the major goal. And then, so when you talk about the key objective of this, reduce greenhouse gases, again, strengthen adaptation and climate resilience, and then climate finance, very important. Climate projects are not cheap. Even if it's free, it comes as a cost for some persons, right? Even as you're on the call, you are spending data and you got, you used your funds to buy data, same as me. So nothing is really free in Freetown, like they say. So that's to say that we need finance, we need funds to to ensure that we execute these projects. And so that's why we now have the World Bank and FIs coming into the picture regarding climate, and then also to promote sustainable and low carbon development. So, unlike the previous agreement that we had, the Paris Agreement now introduces nationally determined contribution. That is what will lead us into the Nigeria Climate Action Plan now. If you look at the trend, we had one from the UNFCCC, we had one from the Kyoto Protocol, and now we have from the most recent one, which is the Paris Agreement. And then what they introduced is the nationally determined contribution, which is a country-specific climate plan that is being updated every 5 years. So just like we moved from the Millennium Development Goal to the Sustainable Development Goal, we have to update all of these, efforts as well. So then it balances mitigation. So we hear more about climate mitigation, we hear about adaptation. So mitigating is like you are reducing. Adaptation is like, okay, this has happened. How do we live with it? How do we become more resilient while we are preventing future occurrences? So now we are transitioning from the global framework. We now understand all of these things, and we are coming back home, building on the NDCs. So before we now come back to Nigeria, right? Do we have a very good understanding of what has been discussed so far? You can put in the charts, you can, use thumbs up and all of that. So when we talk about the Nigeria NDC 3.0, all of these things are developed, using these NDCs. Okay, there's a message in the chat. Yes, all is good so far. Okay, interesting. Thank you so much for your feedback, Emma. So let's come down to Nigeria. Let's fly back home. And then Nigeria climate policy framework. So when you talk about this, it's, it speaks to all national system laws, the policies, the strategies, the institutional arrangements, everything in line with climate agreements, but in the context of our country, Nigeria. So it looks at how does Nigeria respond to all of these things? That's like the purpose, right? How do we translate all of these global commitments from the UNFCCC to Kyoto Protocol to Paris Agreement into national action? Remember again, if you go for this national engagement, you need to bring them down to the grassroots, to look at the national implementation. Even now in Nigeria, we have the federal, we have the states, and we have the local government. In fact, local government now, we now have the LCDAs that now go like the inner part, and then we have the family as a unit as well. So the purpose of it is also to align climate action with with the national development, right? Priorities in terms of energy, agriculture, and okay, and all of those. So it has three key components as well. So for us in Nigeria, and we are going to look at these three key components too. For us in Nigeria, we look at the climate governance system, right? And we look at the NDC, that's the Nigeria Climate Commitment Plan, and we look at the National Adaptation Plan. So it's very, very important that these structures are well, understood so that we know what is obtainable. Don't forget that we're back from Paris, we are back from Japan. We're now looking into the lens of Nigeria in regarding to climate action. So yeah, here we go. So this this climate governance system, it provides all the structure that coordinates climate action across all the levels of government in Nigeria, right? Both from national, as I said earlier, to state to sectorial level, from Ministry of Environment to Ministry of this to Ministry of Education. Climate change is very, very holistic, right? And we need to also make sure that ants are together, ants are on deck, where we have the comms ministry as well, to come into play in terms of addressing misinformation and all of those things. So looking at the Nigeria context, we have the Climate Change Act that was ratified in 2021 and is implemented through key institutions. So can you see something I'm moving across my screen? Is it also visible there? How's my interface like? Can you see my screen like as it were?
No. Okay, yes, you can see your screen now.
Can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. I know that there are some icons that are moving through the thing. Okay. So we have the Climate Change Act that is implemented through key institutions such as the Nigerian Council on Climate Change. And we have the Federal Ministry of Environment, we have the sector agencies, we have state governments, and we have the local government. So this is like the leading climate change response in Nigeria. That's the NCCC. And they have been doing a very good job so far. They have a new DG, Madam Tenyoye, and she has been doing a very good job, towards information, action, adaptation, resilience, and all of that. So the major coordinating system in all of this is the NCCC. So if you look at the key function of this governance system in Nigeria is to coordinate climate policy, to coordinate the implementation across all of the sectors, and to also facilitate reporting in terms of compliance. Are these states compliance? Is that compliance? Is this ministry compliance in line with the international climate commitments? And also to promote finance, funding, super important. You have to mobilize money, and also monitoring, evaluation, and accountability system. So there's a footer here that says the system ensures climate action is well coordinated, monitored, and aligned with national development priorities. So now moving into the next slide. So remember that we're taking the Nigeria climate policy framework one after the other. So we've spoken about the governance because there has to be a governance, there has to be a structure in all of these things. So that's the first thing that we'll discuss, that shows us that it makes it coordinated from the states, from the federal to the state. So everybody that is being involved, like you have an hierarchy, just like you can have what's it called now? When we have a diagrammatic representation of how things work, right? That's what the climate governance system in Nigeria is speaking to. And then, so let's now go to the second, which is the nationally determined contributions. So this NDC is outlines Nigeria's, commitment under the Paris Agreement. What is Nigeria going to do? What are those things that we are looking at as a country under these climate issues that that we are talking about? What are those key sections? Look at this picture here. How do we move from how do we Okay, please, can you mute that mic? Okay, thank you. So how do we move from a land of scarcity to a land of lush, where something is green, right? So that is what Nigerian NDC is trying to say. How we reduce emission, how we are going to adapt to climate change in the country level. So we look at energy transition, food and agriculture, forestry and land use, waste and circular them over there. We have EV vehicles. We have a lot of information now on food security, and forestry and land use. We have more thing about plastic. So now you see the plastic value chain now, where even if we have some, we have the bottled water still being produced, right? Lagos State, recently banned use of styrofoam. That was, I think, last year or 2 years ago, and all of those single-use plastics. So these are improvements in cases of circular economy. We have Nestle. Nestle, they recycle the bottles. So when you say a Nestle bottle, I'm not their brand ambassador. That's a disclaimer out there. So you don't say, oh, she's speaking about Nestle, but they are doing a very good job regarding that, and the bottle is being recycled to produce another new one, because we all know that talking about circular economy, you have lesser energy is used to produce a recycled one other than you extracting it from the first. And we have a lot of upcycled products, as well. And regarding sustainable transport, you have better efficient, machines, what's it called, ships, even trains as well. So it keeps getting better, with time. So this NDC is based on the context of Nigeria. Don't forget that we are now back home, right? And Nigeria's capacity to tackle the issue of climate change. So every 5 years, it is updated. So when we have NDC 3.0, it shows that there was NDC 1.0, there was 2.0, and now we have 3.0. So it looks at, cross-sectoral implementation from the government to the private sector and even to the people sector. We are also very important to make sure that all of these things works. So do we have some key challenges? Yes, absolutely. Because if you look at financing projects, institutional coordination, even enforcement capacity as well, just like it was mentioned earlier, that enforcement is also a big deal, right? So let's now jump straight into the national adaptation plan. So this is also one of the Nigeria's climate, policy, the climate governance and all of that. So it also prepares and responds to the impact of climate change, what is being experienced. If you look at this pictorial representation, it looks at agriculture again and food security. These are the 5 key sectors. Not to say other sectors are not, important, but these are the key ones. And other ones are even tied into this. Education, there's no how, as we are having this conversation, I'm also educating you. SDG fall is also being met, So we're looking at flood and disaster management, flooding everywhere, water issues, health systems, coastal and urban resilience. Being in the coastal space with my work in Lekan, Bakare Financial, World Oceans Day is coming up, and we visited one of the coastal communities. That was the longest I have been, looking at coastal communities far into the land of Ekpe and Ibejuleki. And I'm like, there's another life here. There's life outside of Lekki, there's life outside of Aja, even life outside of Ikeja or Ikorodu or anywhere else. Like, these are the main people that depend on fishing for their source of livelihood. So coastal resilience is also super important, and urban resilience as well. So why do we have this national adaptation plan? Now, Nigeria operate on 3 tiers of governments, right? The federal, the state, and the local. So how do we reduce Nigeria's vulnerability to climate change impacts? How do we strengthen community? How do we, strengthen infrastructure? How do we make the ecosystem better? How do we integrate climate adaptation, right, into national development planning? So when you are planning something, it has to be realistic. We also have the urban aspect that looks into architecture. You know that housing is also a very big problem. When some rooms are not well ventilated, they are calling out those that are building houses now, that they put one tiny window in the name of aesthetics. Ventilation is super important. Like, we need that natural air to make sure that people are not breathing into each other, especially for those who are vulnerable, children of below 5 and the elderly ones, and other persons that might be affected. So it focuses on all of these things that have been mentioned. And then the key idea for the national adaptation plan again is to strengthen Nigeria's ability to live with the climate impacts that are already happening. Adaptation, it's here already. So how do we get better? How do we make sure that no lives or lesser lives are lost and all of that? So while leaving the Nigerian governance aspect now, and then we are moving towards implementation. So we say, despite all of these strong policies, the Paris agreements, the NAPs, the NDCs, what is going on? Why do we still have gaps between commitments, between these laws and implementation? So it's really quite a challenging one. And from my own experience over the years, both from research, academic, and on-site experiences that have been, regarding the social impact space generally and sustainability, these are the things that I know that have been, that are really key issues, the implementation gap that we have, in that we have weak enforcement of policies. Trust me, guys, Nigeria has laws. We have a lot of law, like a lot of gazettes, as they say it. We have a lot of policies, but implementation, and again, climate finance. You cannot talk about climate or issues without mentioning finance. And then poor coordination. across government level. So we see that, I don't want to mention government bodies here, but if you look at an agency, you bring three agencies together and you discover that three of them are addressing the same issue. Like, what is going on? So who is doing what? Sometimes I'm sure these agencies might even be a little bit internally confused that, okay, this person is addressing this issue. While we say that all of them are maybe under the Ministry of Environment or Nature and all of that, but sometimes they are overlapping of functions. Just like when the VIO is checking something, what's it called now? Road safety too are checking, like, what's happening here? So sometimes there's poor coordination, and I know that the government has done this, so all of these things are being put in place to ensure that climate matters they are well addressed in the country, but sometimes they have overlapping of roles and functions, and then low public awareness as well. But it's a very good thing that we're having this boot camp so that you also are agent of change, to make sure that all of these gaps that you have identified as well, they are being rectified and people know, because it is when you know that you are able to do better. If you do not know, then there's no how you can do better. So the uneven implementation across sectors. So some sectors are taking it high, some might be bringing it down. So we need to look at it holistically, where all hands are really on deck, to make sure that these issues are really being tackled. So both from the federal to state to local and then to community levels. So that is why when we go to communities, right, we also speak. So I can't go to a community I went the last time. I can't be blowing grammar there or be speaking English. You have to speak their language. You have to bring it down to their level. Either you speak Yoruba or the indigenous language that applies. So that also shows that the indigenous persons too, they are also key people in the value chain if you are looking at the climate change sector in the country as well. So we have okay. So we have a key takeaway here that says that this gap it limits the effectiveness of Nigerian climate response. It's definitely will limit it, because as some people are taking it higher, some are bringing it down. A lot of challenges here and there as we are enforcing all of these things. There are some factors, some of them are natural, I won't lie, and some are human induced, right? So look at this picture now. How can we say with all of the implementation plan that we have, we still do hope we still have some people that are experiencing this? The community I went to last, Akodo Aseo, so the man was saying that they have overflow. As big as the ocean is, it's going to overflow its bank and it's going to intrude into their own community. Like, that is where they are. So some of them, in fact, this water brings down their houses. They start building houses back. These are rising issues due to rising sea levels. Glaciers are melting, and when they melt, it's going to bring in more water. Just like you have an ice block, once it melts, we're going to have more water coming out. So these are really part of the problem. So we need to bridge the gap between academics, research, policy, and also community. We need more of community engagement so that we are all, put together. That's why we need to have market advocacy and not leaving no one behind, basically. Let's just limit it from, the cream de la cream or the 1% of the educated people. Let's also, because these people, they have lived experiences. By the time they share, you'll be very, very shocked that what you think in the classrooms, these people you have your own experience, right? But these people that are living in the indigenous communities as well, the local people, they have their own lived experience that when they share this with you, you'll be like, wow. So it's also going to, add to your own data. So this is also a very good information added that when you go to community engagements, try as much as possible to listen to these people. They are also key stakeholders. Do not go there with the mindset of, oh, I'm learned, I have a master's, I have a PhD, I have a BS, I have a HN, I have this and that. Try and listen to them so that you are going to have a very robust data. And if there is inclusion, trust me, then we're going to have a very, very good approach towards solving the climate change issue. So right about now, moving from this implementation gap that we have really identified, we are going to be having an interactive case study. So this avatar is saying that the climate is changing, why aren't we? So let's change the narrative now. Let's get involved in this, hands-on interactive session. So we are going to assess the Nigeria's climate action, right? So we are going to connect what I've discussed earlier. We are connecting the climate policy, the NDC 3.0, the National Adaptation Plan, the Climate Change Act, and you're going to join it together. You merge it with real world challenges that you have experienced, and then you are going to talk about the implementation realities, right? So the guiding question will now be, how effective is Nigeria's current climate change policy framework, in addressing climate change? The framework that you have learned, the policy that you have learned that has been summarized for you, right? How do we bridge this gap? Let's do a deep dive into it. Let's look at it from the lens of the young people on this call, based on your realities in your various true political zones, because I'm also sure that what is obtainable in the north is definitely different from what we have in the southwest and other regions as well. So we are going to look into this, and then we'll circle back where we have discussions, and I think I've just spent exactly 1 hour. So we still have 30 minutes. So let's use 10 to, I wouldn't know how this will work. Maybe the moderator will let us know how you is being prepared, to handle this case study. Are they going into groups? Maybe you give them 5 minutes to put us together, and then we have someone come to present, proposing youth-led solutions, because we have young people on the call. Where's my moderator who was
Yes.
anchoring?
Thank you, Esther. We will be splitting the groups into breakout rooms for that, and we'll just project what you have on the screen.
Okay, that's good. So let's do this within 5 minutes. Let's say we split around 11:30. Let's say by 11:35, let's come back. 11:35, 11:37-ish. So we'll come back, and then we'll split up from there. And you have one person to present to make it coordinated per group. So how many groups are we having, Moyo? Sorry.
So we can have 2. Or what do you
Fast,
suggest?
mind?
Oh, I
Okay,
said we can have 2. Or what do you suggest?
How many people do we have on the call? We have 42 minus myself, and let's say the team, let's say about 37. So if you have 4 groups, then maybe we can have 10 persons per group, maybe 10. Some will be 10, some will be 9. Or if you have made preparation for, let's say, 3, then it can be 3. They can split. It's fine. The most important thing is that once they come back into the room, then we can have the robust discussion on what they have identified so far. So guys, let's put our heads together. Let's come up with things based off what points and all. So Chidima, your hand is up. Please feel free.
Yeah, hello, good morning. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
I'm raising my hand because of the time. We were told 11:30, and we have another class coming up by 12, so we have to go and take a break or something. So this can be given as an assignment, or I don't know.
So my session started 10:25. If you had joined early, you would know that there was
Yeah, I
technical
did join
glitch.
early, but it was not our fault. I think it was network break from not our fault at all.
Yes, it's not absolutely, because these are one of the pros of technology. It happens, so it's not to blame anyone. But then I also have to use my Evangeline, your hand is up. So I mean, I'll leave this to the moderators to handle this, however, and then let me know when to continue. If it's will be done as an assignment or it should be coordinated internally, then maybe they can speak so that we can move on and you know.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And to every participant, I'd like to say our sincere apologies for the technical glitch that happened earlier. We didn't this didn't happen last week, but it happened this week. We have been trying everything possible to ensure that this doesn't repeat itself again. But what I'd like to say is, I think it would be good if we can engage in this conversation before our facilitator goes. Considering the fact that we also didn't get to start early due to the network glitch that happened. So what I would suggest is, if it's possible, to finish the session at least 10 minutes before 12. I think that can still work. So is that something we can work with, ma'am?
That's fine. Anyone works with me
Oh,
in
okay. So I think we can just quickly have the interactive case study, like say 5 minutes, and then come back
Yes,
together.
by all means, we can have the breakout room. So how do we bring them together? Is there a time limit so they don't exhaust, so much time in the
Yes, there is. You just project the questions you want them to answer or discuss, and then I would share them. I would assign them into each room.
I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Okay. All right.
Can you currently see my screen?
Yes, I
Because
can.
okay, perfect. I didn't know it's not. So this is what they're having the conversation around. So they will evaluate Nigeria climate response. They connect the policies that has been discussed, the three policies in the context of, what works here, and then they will relate it with real world climate challenges, the implementation gap, and how they as young people can rectify this, proposing youth-led solutions. So 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Okay, any updates on the group? Is there anyone to check how it's going? And I see that there are some persons that didn't join any group and are on the call. Evangeline, are you there? Do we have any moderator from the organization on the group? On the call? Hello, is anyone there from the NGOs? Can they circle back now? Okay, I guess I have to call out. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I have to bring back the group. I hope you guys had a very good discussion. So with
terrible.
the first, it was terrible. What happened? You want to share?
The time was too short, and before people came in, before all of us can try to harmonize things, the time is up.
I see. Well, these are one of the cons of technology, as I have said earlier, because the session was 30 minutes late. So we're supposed to have like 15 minutes for this interactive session. So I think you had like 5 to 7 minutes. So, but from your team, was there anyone? I mean, it's just to identify two climate challenges in Nigeria. You match them with the policy, highlight at least one implementation gap, and propose a practical youth-led solution. So, who wants to go from those that were able to discuss? I mean, I'm sure you must have been saying something because I know when you join breakout session like that, some people don't speak until one person takes the lead. So, which group wants to go first? Please, by all means, feel free to unmute your mic. Do you have group one? Anyone in group one? Please quickly so that we can finish this in the next 5 minutes.
Good luck. Sorry, man. Good luck is able. I want to talk, ma. Good luck,
Yes, yes,
for
they
group
can
4.
speak. They can speak.
Okay,
You have the
good
floor,
afternoon,
please.
everyone. Good afternoon,
Yes, good
everyone.
afternoon.
My name
Good
is
Good
Goodluck
afternoon.
Akumude.
afternoon.
So from group one, we identified from the policies that were available that the lapses we actually observed were in areas of waste, and someone also made contribution in areas of tree planting to reduce emission. So for the areas of waste, we were able to actualize two main problems. Number one is the areas of the agencies not being held accountable for the funding that is being disbursed to them to do their work, or if they've not even been checked if they are doing their work, especially the Environmental Sanitation Agency. And trying to rush as fast as I can. And also, we also identified lapses in the areas of sensitization and adequate awareness. So we believe that if these agencies are being held aggressively accountable for their actions, for example, at the end of the month, you should be able to give the masses, this
Okay,
is
I
exactly
think
what we're able to do. Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you. Can you please wrap up in like 30 seconds? Oh, sure.
Okay, I'm about doing that now. So if the agencies are being held aggressively accountable and we do a lot of sensitization, then we can be able to implement what the other member of the group said, the 3 R's of managing waste. So we're talking about recycling, reusing, and so on and so forth. So if we can give them a lot of sensitization, we can recycle and reuse most of the waste we have, because people do not have an idea and the agencies are not held accountable. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's a very good. Waste management, as I said earlier, is also one of the planetary crises that we're currently experiencing. Please, round of applause for the group. So which group is going next? So this can also be done in your leisure time. You can speak to your friends. You guys can have this. So the class does not end there, actually. It doesn't end there. So feel free to meet up with each other and then have discussions around this. So who is going next? What group is going? Is it group 3 or group 1? Please just unmute and speak if you're representing any group so that in the next less than
Okay,
5 minutes.
I'll be speaking for group breakout room 3.
Okay, good. Please go ahead.
So we examined the last policy you talked about, which was the NAP. So we realized that the NAP's plan was to make Nigeria's resilient to any climate change. So I will be using like a Lagos State as a case study. Can I go on?
Yes, but few in like a minute, please,
Yes,
because
yes, yes, yes.
the
So
idea
if
is to
we look at the
propose. Hold on, Mr. Shumefo. So the idea is for you to propose a practical youth-led solution. You understand? So we're
okay,
looking at not just blaming, but or pointing fingers, but what are the young
exactly.
people to do going for? So in like few seconds, please, because of
Okay,
time.
no problem. So we decided that in terms of implementation, like what solutions we can come up with, we could just look at the community flood watch app. So that means like if we have a WhatsApp community where residents will report where there are blocked drains and there are flood points in real time. So if this data can go to the local government, it makes them work faster yes, faster to get a quick response. Another solution is maybe like youth-led sensitization on waste management. So if they can partner with community development areas to run campaigns in schools and markets on waste disposals and climate health links. So this already Lagos State runs a lot of SDGs workshops. So I think this fits the model they have on ground. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Which group do we have? What about group 1?
Okay. I don't know what's my group number, but I
No,
think
no, we have
group
to do
two
it by
one.
group. Maybe you can put your opinion in the chat, please, so that the other groups can speak. We had a break, or you're supposed to break up into your room. But do we have anyone from group 1? Quickly. So Evangeline, it means that you guys might have to extend your next session maybe by 10 minutes then if you have to inform the speaker so that they can also take a break ahead of the session. Who is going for group 1 or group 2, please?
I'm
Okay,
group
group
two.
two.
What I meant is that I don't know if my group is group 1 or group 2, but I'm representing my group.
Okay.
What group are you, Ms. Wishate?
I think group 1.
Okay, I'm
Oh,
group
yeah,
two then.
perfect.
Okay.
Ms.
All
Wishate,
right.
go. Then after that, I'll go.
Okay, so we identified the problem or the challenge to be heat waves, and
Okay.
the policy that was supposed to tackle that on the government side was NDC, knowing that it's targeting 47% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. And the gaps we noticed in that is that there's still high rate of deforestation, there's still high rate of pollution, there's still high rate of unsustainable agriculture, which are the causes of increase in greenhouse gases. And the solutions, what youth can do is to increase sensitization on afforestation, and to also see how they can implement NAP, or the government can implement NAP in local communities. So that was what we identified. Thank you.
That's a very good one. I love that you guys came down to local realities. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you
Okay,
for
yeah,
that.
that's this for group two. We also look into consideration of the NDC, and one of the real world challenge we identified there is flooding still happens, and the gaps in the implementation is low youth inclusion during the policy, kind of, and also not really community oriented. So I think well, the solution now should be youth should be included, and the language of the policy should be based on community. And I think also more data should also kind of, if graduates can collect data on some of the floodings that is happening, from there we can breach that implementation gap as well. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. That's a very short and precise one. Thank you for that. Data. So when you go for your field study and all of that, can you ensure that you get data, as you are engaging with the local communities and all of that? So you guys have done a very good job. Thank you for your participation. It shows that, a very good justice has been done to that topic. The slide will be shared. So whatever is needed to be take out of this, maybe interactive, probably the organizers will coordinate, and then, but I like that we had a very good take. So as we wrap up this very important session, we also need to look at the youth in climate governance, right? Because young people are not passive, beneficiaries, they're also participants. So, and now we have more young people, who are involved in shaping, influencing, and even implementing climate policies across all levels, globally, nationally, at all levels. So young people matter because we can contribute in the aspect, we make majority of the population. We agree with me in terms of numbers in Africa, and we are most affected. We bring when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship, community level awareness, just like I've said, monitoring and accountability. Oh my God, young people, they are not ashamed to call anybody out, if they are not performing. So it's very, very important that the youth are being involved in climate advocacy, just like you're having this session, in policy engagement, in community-based environmental action, decision making, climate innovation, green entrepreneurship. Please make sure that any opportunities that comes from the NGO Youth Nigeria, just like you have this, you are not found wanting. It's super important that we do that. So these are resources like that. So, we go into this and then, look at the archives and learn more about all that has been discussed. So there's a call to action. And again, it's not just about having these conversations. As we wrap up this session, I want us to reflect on the fact that understanding climate is the first step towards it, but implementing action and impact, is all that really matters and makes it count. So I will encourage you all to stay informed, take action community-wise, be part of climate solution, just like you are doing on the call, and to ensure that what we have discussed is not just policy, it's about the future of climate action. And it really, really depends on what we do with the information that we have been equipped with today, as in this session. So thank you very much. I will be taking the back seats from here. And I would liken everyone to a soil. So the soil has been fertiled. Please, let's go and spread the word and do justice to all that we have learned. Thank you very much for having me take this session. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out. These are my socials. You can connect via Instagram, LinkedIn, any follow-up, because I'm not sure we'll be able to take questions. It's like 5 minutes into the next class. Please feel free to engage, and maybe how to also engage better will be shared with the by the facilitators, if there are other ways as well. So thank you so much once again, everyone. Thank you. Moderator, are you here? Uh let me check.
Yes, ma'am. We are here, ma'am.
Okay, good.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
appreciate, we really gain a lot from your session. Thank you for that impactful session, ma'am. Please, I'd like every one of us to react with our emojis to appreciate our facilitator today. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
had the slide. Sorry for jumping in. I see someone asking that. You don't have to appeal. Don't worry. I'll share the slide after the session. I'll share it.
All right, ma'am. So quick announcement to every one of us. Please, I'd like to remind you now that our sessions still continue till June 6th. So every Saturday, we have 2 sessions each day, the morning session and the afternoon session. And our activities for this week, for those of us who haven't participated, it will be posted on our WhatsApp group so that you can do it during the course of the week as well. And please don't forget to join our second session, which is coming up very soon. I'd like us to on our camera, please, for a group photograph before we call it a day for this session. Please, let's on our camera for the group photograph. Every one of us for a headshot, for a quick headshot, please, let's on our camera. I haven't seen some of us on our camera. Please, let's do this as soon as possible so that we can end the call here. All right, I'm about to take this. Everybody say cheese. All right, thank you very much. I'll be expecting us for the next session. Do have a nice day.
What time are you have in the afternoon session?
By
By
12:05.
12, by 12:05. Let's say 12:05.
All right.
So we'll be
Thank you so
expecting
much.
you all, please. Thank you.